What's going on, guys, and welcome back to #AskGSM episode 351 here today for Wednesday, August 19th, 2020. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. Before we go any further with the show itself, got to mention two things. Both things you probably should already know by now based off what I put up here on the channel in the last couple of days. Monday, check out my exclusive interview. This past Monday went up. My exclusive interview with WWE Raw superstar Seth Rollins. Not only can you read the article on Bleacher Report, you can listen to it too right now here in the channel. That went up on Monday. Awesome time talking to the Monday Night Messiah. On Friday this week, we got 2 days until my audio interview and the article version goes live on Bleacher Report. The audio interview goes live here on the channel 8 a.m. Eastern Time. My chat with the game Triple H. The biggest interview I've ever done, one of the most enjoyable. It was fucking awesome. I got 15 minutes with him. Went a little longer than that, actually. We talked for a while about NXT, TakeOver 30 coming up on Saturday, and so much more. His legacy. So check that out this Friday right here on the channel. If you're not already subscribed, if you don't already have the notifications on, now is a damn good time to do so. You're going to want to be notified. You might forget between now and then that the Triple H interview is going live at 8 a.m. Eastern Time this Friday here on the channel. Do not miss it. Seth Rollins was Monday. We got Triple H on Friday. And I still do have all the audio of all the other interviews I've done in recent months with Otis, Matt Riddle, Rhea Ripley twice. I have the interviews with Braun Strowman, Big E, Dolph Ziggler, Bayley, Johnny Gargano, Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, Roderick Strong, Adam Cole, Keith Lee. The list goes on and on and on. All those interviews, and some of which I've already put up on WrestleRant Radio, like the Braun Strowman one is up there, the Keith Lee one is up there, Adam Cole, and a few others. So anyway, all of those you can check out right now in article form on DailyDDT.com, fan side of Daily DDT, as well as Bleacher Report. But that being said, the audio of those interviews, I'm hoping to upload here to the channel going forward very, very soon. So you can hear my chat with Bayley. You can hear my chat with Dolph Ziggler, with Braun Strowman, and everyone else I just mentioned. All of those are going up at some point, and there's a lot of them. Again, there's a lot of interviews to be uploaded. I've done a shit ton in 2020. I've probably done more in 1 year already this year than any other year so far, which is cool. So, and most of them being with WWE superstars and NXT superstars, which is even better. So those are all going up momentarily. If you want to be notified every time one of those interviews goes up, you're going to want to hit that little bell button to be notified every time those interviews go live here on the channel. So as far as #AskGSM is concerned here today, before we get to the questions and whatnot, gotta say this. Thank you guys for sending in this week's questions early. So I'm actually recording this on Tuesday. I'm hoping to put this up as soon as I can on Wednesday. I'm leaving. I'm going to Cape Cod. My family is up there this week, like right now, on vacation. They were only there for a couple days. I think they're going home later today, actually, on Wednesday. I'm speaking about this on Tuesday, but they went up on Monday. They're coming back home on Wednesday. I couldn't go on Monday because I talked to Triple H that day. I did another interview on Tuesday with someone to be determined, someone to be announced soon. So I've been busy all week. SummerSlam's coming up this weekend. I'm like, I can't go on Monday, but maybe I'll drive up on Wednesday. And that's the goal. That's what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, or rather today when you listen to this. So I will be gone all day on Wednesday in Cape Cod, which for me is like 2.5 hours. It's going to be a road trip. Me and Alexis are going together to see my family up there today. Should be fun. That being said, though, yeah, it's just crazy. So it's going to be a crazy week. There's a lot going on here on the channel. WWE Network and show videos, WrestleRant Radio going live tomorrow, the interview with Triple H on Friday, and so much more. One of the craziest weeks in a while. And that's saying something because I've had a lot of crazy weeks recently. I went a week without power here at my house a couple of weeks ago. So it's been nuts. It's been nuts. I appreciate all the support, though. I appreciate you guys for sending in these questions early. That being said, I won't be watching NXT tomorrow. Dynamite could not have been, delayed at any better of a time, because if NXT and Dynamite were up tomorrow, or tonight rather, on Wednesday, then I would have even more to catch up on. So I'm glad it's only NXT and Dynamite's being saved for Saturday. Nonetheless, guys, let's get going here with the questions. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well at facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday afternoons, evenings, whatever, and I will include your question in the next video. And if not there, you can always leave a question on the wall itself on my Facebook page. I will be sure to be notified and see it there as well. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include all your questions in next week's video if I haven't already answered them recently. If I just there's questions that are asked that I've been doing, I think, a better job recently of leaving certain questions out that I literally just talked about a week ago, or I just have no real answer for, or that I just don't think are interesting. So I know I used to answer pretty much everything. I try to dwindle it down now, so I'm not sitting here for 2 hours ranting about God knows what. So if that's why your question isn't selected, I'm sorry, but we only have a certain amount of time. I only have a certain amount of time. And more often than not, your question has probably already been answered a million other times in other episodes. So for the regular listeners of here of the show, I don't want to make them sit through another, my thoughts on yet another question that's already been asked multiple times so far. So anyway, let's get going here first with Mr. Marceau RJ. Now, he said he was going to tweet me the question. I haven't gotten the tweet yet, but he did text it to me on Sunday. Nice and early, and I'm glad he did. And we're starting off with a banger here. His question was, what are my favorite and worst, and I assume he means least favorite, SummerSlam main events of all time? Because if, you don't say favorite and worst, I assume he means favorite and least favorite, because if he means worst, then he would have said best. You know what I mean? And there's a distinct difference there, because I could say, CM Punk and John Cena from SummerSlam 2011, one of my favorite matches. And it is. I thoroughly enjoy that match. Is it the best? Far from it. But, it's one of my favorites. So, as far as favorites are concerned, I could probably name a lot more favorite main events in SummerSlam history than I can the worst. And I didn't write them down here either. I absolutely fucking should have. Just time got away from me. I couldn't. I forgot. So off the top of my head, and he asked me over text, have I seen every SummerSlam? And the answer is yes. Now, for the worst main events, I don't want to say the early 80s or the late 80s or early 90s, like the Zeus match and shit like that. Those aren't great, but it's just a product of the time. I don't really blame them too much for that. And SummerSlam's had a lot of great main events over the years. I would put, again, it's not my favorite because I didn't grow up at that time period. It's not something I really have a lot of nostalgia for. You can't make a best SummerSlam main events list without talking about Bret Hart and British Bulldog from SummerSlam 92. Now, it's up right now in the WWE YouTube channel for free. If you have the network, you can watch it there, obviously. But they have the isolated match up right now on the YouTube channel. They have it as part of the Best Of playlist on the WWE Network for SummerSlam that went up this week. It's definitely a match worth checking out. It's that good. And it put British Bulldog on the map for the Intercontinental Championship in Wembley Stadium in London. Such a great match. Not my favorite, but an amazing main event in SummerSlam's history. So as far as my favorite are concerned, again, there's a lot of them, so it's hard to narrow it down to just a couple. I love Rockin' Brock from SummerSlam 02. I just really love that show. I watched it for the first time in full back in 2014. And again, I've seen all the pay-per-views on the network, all the WWE pay-per-views. That was one where after I saw it, I'm like, holy shit, that was a great show. Not up there with, it's up there with Survivor Series. I still think Survivor Series is better, but SummerSlam 02 is still outstanding. It's still one of the best installments of all time. So Rockin' Brock is a great main event. That's one of my favorites. I'm trying to think. 03, 04. What was the 04 main event? Randy Orton picking up the World Heavyweight Championship? I forget. 05 was Shawn and Hulk. God, no. Some of the 90s ones, again, Bret and Bulldog, obviously. Bret and Taker's a good one. Steve Austin and Taker's a good one. Undertaker and Underfaker is fucking terrible. That's probably my least favorite. The match is that bad. It's such a bad match, dude. Wasn't SummerSlam 05 like Diesel and King Mabel? That would probably be my second least favorite. That match is terrible as well. Again, I don't know if it's the main event, but Bret and Owen obviously should have been the main event for 94. 95, I think it was Shawn and Razor in another ladder match, which was impromptu. It wasn't supposed to be that match. I think Dean Douglas either left or got hurt, so they put Shawn in there again, or Razor rather. So that was a great match, obviously, not the main event. Anyway, going back to the 2000s, Rock and Brock is up there as one of my favorite main events. '06, what was '06? What was the WWE? What was the main event? Was it DX in the McMahons? That couldn't have been the main event, was it? I mean, if it was, that's definitely not one of my favorites. I'm not fond of that match at all. God, what was the '06 main event? I think it was Batista, Booker T, or King Booker, or whatever. I don't know if that was the main event. I don't really care about that show, honestly, in general. For the WWE title, who was it? Oh, I'm such a moron. RJ was at the show. He's going to, kill me when he realizes that I forgot the main event. John Cena and Edge. That was a very good match. I have seen the match multiple times. It was a good match in Boston. Edge wins. Not my favorite or least favorite, but it's a good match. '07, I think the main event was Cena and Orton. Good, but doesn't really rank up there. '08, Edge and Taker would probably be... I don't know if it's number one, but it's up there. I love that Edge and Taker match from SummerSlam '08. I fucking love that match. I love their whole feud, really. But that Hell in a Cell match, I'm a big fan of. Love the storytelling, the action. One of my favorite Hell in a Cell matches, period. So that would be one of my favorites. '09, I would say least favorite main events, Team WWE versus Team Nexus. The match was fine. That outcome was shit. I fucking hate that Bret Hart barely doing anything. The match was just not that good. It had the drama and whatnot, but Nexus losing decisively was fucking terrible. So that's one of my least favorites. '09, I loved Punk and Hardy. I don't know if I would put it in my top 3, but it is one of my favorites. That's a great match too. Punk and Hardy in the TLC match for the World Heavyweight Championship. 2011, again, like I said, Punk and Cena 2, the rematch from Money in the Bank. That would be among my favorites. I thought that was a really good match. 2012, Brock and Triple H. Good match. Not among my favorites or least favorites. 2013, Cena and Bryan would absolutely be on there. And yeah, that was the real main event, not Orton cashing in Money in the Bank. That was one of the craziest SummerSlam endings ever. I remember losing my shit watching that show at a Buffalo Wild Wings with my brother and stepdad. When that show was airing. I lost my voice from marking out at a fucking TV screen at Buffalo Wild Wings. That was crazy. My reaction to said finish, by the way, is up right now here on the channel. I uploaded it 7 years ago, but it's up here. If you look under either live reactions or the miscellaneous videos or whatever, it's up there. Anyway, or at least it should be. So that was 2013. 2014, Brock and Cena I thought was great. As a match, it was whatever, but Brock killing Cena was amazing. Absolutely love that main event. 2015, I enjoyed Brock and Taker. I was there for that one, my first WWE pay-per-view, period. Really enjoyed that match. I don't know if it's among my favorites, but I enjoyed it. SummerSlam 2016, Brock and Orton was a total disappointment. Complete disappointment. Easily one of my least favorites. I was not a fan of that match or the finish. I thought it was good, and then it just completely shit the bed. Very disappointing. 2017 was the 4-way for the Universal Championship with Strowman, Joe, Roman, and Brock. Great main event. Not among my favorites, but it was a great main event. 2018 was Roman and Brock. It wasn't the WrestleMania match, I'll put it that way. It was better than 34, but not as good as 31. So it was just kind of there. And then last year, I thought Rollins and Brock actually had a great match. They had a really, really good match. So my favorite all time would probably be Edge and Taker, now that I think about it. Either that or Bryan and Cena. Either one of those both matches were amazing. For least favorite, I would probably go Undertaker versus Underfaker. That match was terrible. At least Cena and Nexus, Team Cena, Team Nexus, it had its moments. The finish was terrible, but the match wasn't that bad. Undertaker and Underfaker was that bad. I think 95, but let's look it up right now. I'm pretty sure it was Diesel and King Mabel. Let's see, 95. Typing the wrong fucking date here. Because I know Shawn and Razor had a match on that show. Definitely wasn't the main event. Pretty sure Diesel was, though. That match was terrible. Yeah, Diesel and King Mabel. Oh my god, that match sucked. Yeah, that would probably be number 1. Or actually, Taker and Underfaker would be number 1. That would be number 2. Number 3 would probably be from recent years. Trying to think. Maybe Brock and Orton, just because it was so disappointing, and it really should have been a lot more. They built it up great. I was looking forward to it. The finish sucked. They tried to go for the shoot mentality. Just no one cared. I remember leaving the building that night and being so pissed. And the Taker-Brock finish wasn't that much better, but at least the match was very good. You know, people left the building 2 years in a row at the Barclays Center for SummerSlam fucking pissed that was the finish for those matches. But anyway, though, I very much enjoyed SummerSlam over the years. Very much looking forward to Sunday as well. SummerSlam is easily one of my favorite pay-per-views every single year. Second question from Kadeem G, if that's how you pronounce it. If it's not, I apologize. From YouTube. Is 2020 the absolute worst year of WWE Women's Division from a booking standpoint? I mean, that can't be a serious question. It can't be. I mean, if you're going to call this the worst year in the history of the women's division, clearly you weren't watching any year of WWE Women's Wrestling from like 01 through 2015, 2014. It's been a lot worse. Like 2010, 2009, 2008, when they would get like 2 minutes for an 8-woman lumberjill match or like an 8-woman tag team match, or like they would do a 12-woman tag team match that would be over legit within 60 seconds. They would go home just as the match was starting. That's how bad the women's division was back then. Very minimal talent. No disrespect to the Eves of the Worlds and the Beth Phoenixes, excuse me. But the rest of those divisions, woof, they were not good. So, no. I mean, yeah, maybe in recent years, like the women's division this year, at least we've had some really, really good matches. Like, I have my qualms about the women's division, but I will take this women's division over the one from 2010, 2008, 2009, any day of the week. 2003, yeah, we had Trish and Lita, but we also had a slew of bras and panties matches and a lot of other dumb shit. At noob_n_co1991 from Twitter, what are your thoughts on Asuka going into SummerSlam against both Sasha Banks and Bayley? Will she get the Raw Women's Championship back, or will she walk out with both women's titles? I believe she needs the Raw Women's Championship back more than the SmackDown Women's title. I mean, you didn't mention the possibility of her losing both matches. I don't see that happening, but, you know, she could lose both. That is also very possible. That would be a letdown, but it could happen. She's clearly walking out of the show with one belt. In my opinion, it's got to be the Raw Women's Championship. It has to be. First of all, she's a Raw superstar. I know Sasha Banks is a SmackDown star holding a Raw Women's belt. I realize that. They try to explain it away by saying she's a tag team champion. That's why she could do it. Whatever. Asuka holding the SmackDown Women's Championship would make even less sense. Bayley's been the champion for so long that it's got to be a big moment when she loses. Bayley has never beaten Asuka before. So that's got to be a big deal too. You know, they should have, I don't know. I was going to say, like, maybe Bayley cost Sasha the win. They could do that, too. I don't want to see, like, Bayley and Sasha for the first time on the main roster, like, on a pay-per-view at fucking Payback. Maybe save it for Survivor Series. I don't know. But either way, I say Bayley's got to win and Sasha loses. Sasha should not be the Raw Women's Champion. It's completely pointless. They should have never taken the belt off Asuka in the first place. And Bayley should be losing to Sasha. She should be losing that SmackDown Women's Championship when it matters most to Sasha Banks. Bayley is like 0-5 against Asuka. So her beating Asuka would just make the most sense. It makes sense. So, yeah, she's got to win. Sasha loses. That's how I would do it. Anyway, next question also from @noob_n_co1991. Which tag team will face Sasha and Bayley for the women's tag team titles at Payback? I mean, logically, it's got to be Asuka and Shayna. I mean, they beat the tag team champions on Monday night. And if it's not them, who else? The Riot Squad? Yeah, maybe. Honestly, I would put the belts in the Riot Squad because they're an actual team. Asuka and Shayna are not. They shouldn't be a team. Shayna should not be teaming with anyone but the four horsewomen, Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke. Her teaming with Asuka on Monday made absolutely no sense. I don't give a fuck if they have a common enemy in Banks and Bayley. That was stupid. It was dumb. So they'll probably do that at the pay-per-view because they did beat them here. They'll probably do... Why else would they win that match? Why else would Shayna tap out Bayley? That makes no sense. Which, I mean, I'm glad Shayna won, but, like, why would you have them beat the SmackDown Women's Champion or the Tag Team Champions, whatever? Unless you were giving them a title shot, so... That's the match I see happening at Payback. I still think the Riot Squad should be the team to take those belts off of Banks and Bayley ultimately. At Iwagu91 from Twitter... Do you see Randy Orton winning the WWE title from Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam? I do. That was my thought process initially when they announced the match. That was my thought process before they even announced it a couple of weeks ago. And I know I'm not the only one on that. I don't really want to see Orton win, to be completely honest with you, just because I like Orton. He's been doing great work recently. But whenever he's champion, at least in the last 10 years, it's usually been shit. I don't know why, but it just is. So I don't want to see him win. I would rather see Drew win. But if Drew wins, who do you have him face? That's the problem. So I see Orton winning. Maybe Drew wins the belt back at the Payback pay-per-view. Who fucking knows? But I do see Orton walking out of Sunday show, the new WWE champion. What are your thoughts on the new TNT Championship design? It's an improvement. I'm still not in love with it. Doesn't excuse the fact they had a unfinished belt for 3 months. I don't give a fuck. Oh, it was the pandemic. Then don't debut the belt. Come on, man. You announced the tournament. So I just don't do the tournament. Hold off on it. And then do the tournament at All Out or some shit. I don't know. Whatever. But I think the new design, while not my favorite championship design ever, it's better than the Women's Championship. The Women's Championship looks terrible. It's way too small. It just looks like a toy belt. The AEW Championship looks great. The tag team titles look great too. The TNT one, it's better than it was before. Not my favorite, but like I said, it's an improvement if nothing else. Do you think that Mandy Rose will defeat Sonya Deville, or do you think Mandy Rose will defeat Sonya Deville at SummerSlam? I do. Mandy just cut her hair. It would be kind of weird for her to cut her hair and then just get her hair shaved. The whole thing is oh, she's the world's hottest soccer mom, or whatever the hell they're calling her. And then she just shaves her head. Sonya's doing great work. I'm shocked they're even doing this stipulation, to be honest with you. We haven't seen a women's hair versus hair match in a long time, if not ever, because I know they did one with Molly Holly and Victoria, but it was one-sided, though, because the Molly Holly one, she would just become the champion. She didn't, Victoria wouldn't have to shave her head. Only Molly Holly would have to, and she did, because she's a trooper. Sonya Deville is, too. I'm sure she will get her head shaved bald. So, anyway, yeah, I do see Mandy Rose winning. Sonya won the first match about, I don't know, what was it, a month ago or something like that? Or not a month ago. It was 3 months ago. It was a while ago. So, yeah, Mandy should give Sonya her comeuppance and win the match on Sunday at SummerSlam. His last question here, do you see Scorpio Sky becoming TNT champion down the road? I do. I didn't think Wednesday last week was the right time. It's just too soon, in my opinion. I love Scorpio, but the timing was just wrong. I think Darby Allin should be the one to ultimately beat Cody for that belt, in my opinion. Scorpio is just not there yet, but at some point, absolutely. I think he's perfect. I think he's tailor-made for that title. At Scarlet One from Twitter, best and worst of the Wednesday Night Wars, number 44. Best, I would say, listen, the Return of the Dream was very controversial, and rightfully so. I don't buy the whole, oh, he did nothing wrong, we looked into it, there was nothing there. I don't buy that for a second, but the match itself with Velveteen Dream, Cameron Grimes, and Kushida was actually really, really good. The triple threat in the main event of NXT last week, that was great. The Karrion Kross, Danny Burch match was good. The post-match angle with the whole fireball thing, I thought that was well done as well. The Bronson Reed, Damian Priest match, I thought was also good. From Dynamite, I enjoyed Cody and Scorpio Sky. Bit anticlimactic of an ending, but it was still a good match. And FTR attacking the Rock and Roll Express was easily, in my opinion, the highlight of the night. As far as the worst from each show, from NXT, there really wasn't a lot of bad. The Drake Maverick killing Dane match was just kind of just filler, so the Undisputed Era could interfere. I felt bad for Drake, who was one of the hottest superstars in NXT a few months ago. Now he's just kind of doing nothing. And Killian Dane's just doing nothing as well. So I would put that in the worst category for NXT. From Dynamite, it just wasn't a great show. I just didn't really love the show last week. I thought it was kind of disappointing, to be honest with you. I thought Jericho and Cassidy was good. Not as good as the original match, and the finish sucked. It was just not good. Did not come across well. Did not feel like a big deal for Orange Cassidy to be beating Jericho. It wasn't a star-making performance, let's put it that way. And then I also thought the Adam Page and Kenny Omega versus Jurassic Express match was just all over the place. Just wasn't coherent. It wasn't good. The crowd reaction wasn't that good. It was just a complete spot fest, but in all the wrong ways. It was just not a great match. So anyway, their next question, thoughts on WWE ThunderDome? Listen, I like the concept. I'm willing to give it a chance. The idea of wrestling fans having their cameras on and interacting with interacting on the shows. I don't trust wrestling fans for a second. I really don't. Because they don't have to be held accountable. It's if you're at a show, you can get kicked out. If you're doing it virtually, you can just watch from home if you get kicked off the stream. Maybe there's a 7-second delay so they can avoid that type of shit. I don't know, but I'm willing to give it a shot. It's better than the whole PC recruit thing. They made it work. They're trying. from all accounts, by all accounts, I've heard that the NBA are actually doing a really good job with the whole virtual background thing and whatever. So I'm willing to give it a shot. We'll see this weekend with SummerSlam weekend. I think it's cool. I think it's cool. How do you feel about DreamWorks? At Scarlet One asks. Honestly, I have no opinion of the DreamWorks company. I assume you're talking about the company that made the Shrek movies. Gonna be completely honest with you, I'm sure I know of more DreamWorks movies, but when you say DreamWorks, the first movie that comes to my head is Shrek, or the Shrek movies. Those are my favorite movies of all time. DreamWorks itself, I have really no opinion of, to be honest with you. At Cool Kid Joe XBL from Twitter, chances that Retribution ruins the Thunderdome. That's a good question. I don't think they will, just because WWE is putting in so much fucking money into this thing with the whole LED boards. It's state-of-the-art. I guess they could, but like I'm sure this is something they're taking seriously. It's not a new car that randomly popped up on Raw, given to Seth Rollins at random. Like, they're obviously investing in this idea through October. So they're not going to... Maybe in October they can destroy the thing if they go back to the PC. For right now, though, I just don't see that happening. Maybe parts of it they can destroy, but parts of it that aren't real. Like, parts of it they make up to look like it's part of the stadium, and it's actually not. Like, I could see that happening. The stadium itself, the Thunderdome itself, I don't see that happening. Like, for example, they beat, Gargano and Ciampa and Retribution. They've destroyed the PC at several points, Edge and Orton as well, but not like the building itself. Like, they destroyed a window. Who fucking cares? Like, they weren't going in there and destroying the Titantron or breaking the ring. Like, they'll destroy the ring ropes. They're ropes. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, they'll destroy small things. They're not going to destroy, like, the Titantron or, like, very expensive shit, because that's just a complete waste of money, and they're not willing to do that. At Frank Mills, ETMT from Twitter, who are the 3 top female and male talents that WWE is either not using or not creatively using right now? It's a good question. So off the top of my head, and to be quite honest with you, I was kind of thinking of more people, and I really couldn't think of a lot. Now, I'm not including NXT. I'm just going off the main roster. There's not as many as you think. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, there's people I wish they would do better by. Like, I wish Kevin Owens was involved in something more important. Something like that. But quite honestly, like, on the surface, they're actually doing well by a lot of people. Like, more than I think a lot of people give them credit for. For example, there weren't a lot of names that came to mind like, oh, they should be doing way more with this guy. Chad Gable's number one and always will be for me. The Shorty G shit is terrible. It does him no favors. It has been terrible. Always will be terrible. They got to change that out. Call him Chad Gable again. The Shorty G stuff has got to go. He just feels like he's been completely just wasted in this company. Mustafa Ali's another one, just because he just came back. He had this hot return. They're already jobbing the guy out. Like the Bobby Lashley. He lost to fucking Riddick Moss on main event. I mean, come on, man. Really? Really? He should be doing way more than he is. He's really, really good. And then I'll put John Morrison in there too. He's on TV. He's having good matches. When the guy came back, though, I was hoping they'd be doing more with him than having him lose to like Big E and, Braun Strowman and all these other people. He should be doing more. He's really talented. He's gotten way better in his time away from the company. He should be doing more, in my opinion. So I really hope when John Morrison, they break him and The Miz up, and they've had a good run. They could have done more with them, but they took the belts off of them in like a month or two, which was kind of a waste, but whatever. So with Morrison, yeah, I really wish they would at some point break him off on his own. Face or heel doesn't really matter. Let him have the run that I know he's capable of, that we saw in AAA, that we saw in Impact, that we saw in Lucha, that we saw in the indie scene. The guy has it in him to be a top star. But the more they job him out to people like Big E and Braun and people like that, and listen, I love Big E and I like Braun, but John Morrison should not be the fucking punching bag for people on this show. He is much more than that. For the women, Shayna Baszler, she submitted Bayley on Monday. Before that, though, her main roster run has been a complete flop. Like, I know she hasn't lost a lot of matches, but the issue is that she loses whenever it matters most. She lost in the Tri-Branded Battle Royal on Friday. She lost at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. She lost the Royal Rumble. She lost the Becky WrestleMania. She can never win when it matters most. Yeah, she pinned Bayley on Monday. Who gives a fuck? If she loses the tag title match in a week and a half, then none of this even matters. So I'll say Shayna Baszler. Compared to how she was used in NXT, she has just not been doing as well on the main roster, which she really should be. Naomi's an easy one just because, they're saying hashtag Naomi deserves more, blah, blah, blah. Which she does, and I think they should be doing more with Naomi. Especially after she came back, got this big reaction, and they're just having her lose, like, random matches, like, meaningless matches. She shouldn't be champion right now, but around that area, like, she's that good to be doing more than what she is currently. And Mickie James, losing to Natalya by fucking countout, dude. Come on. Like, the whole Seth Rollins and Joe thing was infuriating enough that they're not... Listen, I don't give a fuck about Natalya, so honestly, if there's any match to do that for, it's probably that one. But, like, Mickie James deserves better. Like, she should not be losing to Natalya. And I know they came up together in 2008, and that's wonderful and all, but the issue is just that she should be doing a lot more. I'm way more interested and invested in a Mickie James than I am Natalya in 2020. Like, Natalya just does nothing for me at this point. But yeah, Mickie James, they gotta be doing more with her. She only has, like, not that she only has one good run left in her, but, like, they brought her back 3 years ago, and she's done absolutely nothing. Like, that's what amazes me. She hasn't won any championships, she hasn't won any important matches, and yeah, she's there to put other people over, but, like, they should also be doing more with her, like a Shelton Benjamin, which they are finally. Mickie James deserves to be in that conversation as well. She deserves to be booked better than she has been for the last 3 years in WWE. At Reborn Again, we'll close out with his 3 questions here. Is the AEW Women's Tag Team Tournament just Brandi Rhodes' vanity project and nothing more? It sure seems that way to me. Now listen, you're preaching to the choir here, John. Check out his YouTube channel, by the way, Real Honesty with John Ritland. I almost botched that on YouTube. Great stuff. He was also included, by the way, in the upcoming, I could say this now, and I know it won't be out till next week, but fuck it, spoiler alert. John is actually a part of the new David Arquette documentary. I had a chance to watch that the other day, and he's a part of it at the very beginning, so really, really cool stuff. Check it out when it comes out next week. But anyway, back to the Brandi Rhodes thing. You're preaching to the choir here, my man. You're preaching to the choir, because I think Brandi Rhodes is terrible. How many times have I sat here on this show and gone off about Brandi Rhodes? I'm sure she's an amazing woman, but in the ring, she sucks. As a character, she sucks. On the mic, she sucks. She's just not that good, to be quite honest with you. So anyway, I think this whole tournament is a complete waste of time. If Brandi and Allie win the whole thing, and I kind of figured they'd be in the finals, but if they win the whole thing, what a fucking waste, dude. What a waste. There are way better teams in that tournament than them. Like, I'm really, 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 really pulling for Ivelisse and Diamante to win this thing and get signed. Brandi and Allie winning just is a joke. Allie is regressed in the ring in AEW, and Brandi has never gotten any better. She sucks. She sucks. So, yeah, it is a vanity project that they win. If they win, it's like, oh, we care about the women, so I made this tournament and I won my own tournament? Like, who does that? They gotta lose. John's second question, so with WWE ThunderDome, is this going to end up being a disaster since fans will be shown on a giant screen during matches? There's got to be a safe way of doing this. That's my mindset, like I said earlier. There's got to be a way for them to do this where it's not like, oh, all right, fans, show up on the screen. Like, I could see it being like family members of the wrestlers or like friends that they know won't do dumb shit. Or like a Ryan Satin or a Sam Roberts. I could see that stuff. Joe Schmo with like 10 subscribers on YouTube that's ranting about, women's wrestling is terrible, blah, blah, blah. They won't put those fucking people on there. They fucking can't. They can't. Like, it's a liability if someone just shows up with someone just starts flashing their shit around. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see that happening. I hope it won't happen. So it's a risk, but I'm hoping they know what they're doing with this thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. That's the idea anyway, I would hope. Finally, also from John, is Retribution a good idea, or have they completely lost the plot with this thing? Again, I'm still not sold on it. I thought what they did this week and on SmackDown in recent weeks has been an improvement. I still don't care. Honestly, just because I'm conditioned to not care. Because when they debut a new group like this where they don't know where it's going, and I'm convinced they have no idea where this is going, if they have this grand plan, then honestly, that's awesome. I think that's great. How often does that actually happen, though? They usually come up with a cool idea, they make it up as they go along, and they completely butcher the whole thing. That's what I see happening with Retribution. So far, so decent. I see this end up like the reveal being, I don't know, someone completely dumb or predictable, and the whole thing is just a waste of time. That's how I see this thing ending. Or they just don't show up on Raw or SmackDown in the next couple weeks, and they forget all about it. because it's not boosting the ratings the way they were hoping for. I think the Raw rating was down this week. They got 1.6 million viewers or 1.7 million viewers last week. This week it was 1.6. The ratings aren't skyrocketing, nor did we expect them to, at least this quickly. And it's definitely not because of Retribution. Again, I thought what they did on Raw this week with the camera angles and shit like that was kind of cool. The issue with me isn't really in the execution, it's with the end game. It's all about the follow-up. Where is this thing going? And yeah, you could say to me, listen, Graham, you got to watch this, you got to see this thing through. You got to see this thing through. It's a television show. They want to make you wait to find out. Listen, I agree with you. The issue is that I have very little faith in this company from a creative standpoint to pay this thing off properly. If they had done like Lucha Underground or NXT or even AEW, I have faith they could take a storyline like that and do right by it. On the main roster in WWE, absolutely not. 100% no. I really hope it exceeds my expectations. It ends up being cool. Like, listen, I know I'm in the minority here. I didn't give a shit about Dark Order a year ago. I really like him now, honestly. I think the whole Exalted One thing ended up being cool with Brody Lee. Not my favorite faction in the company, but you know what? They have grown on me. I hope Retribution can grow on me, but they're not going to grow on me by beating up random people in the back. Like, who cares? They got to go after the top names. Why wouldn't they target Shawn Michaels? That's my question. They go after John Morrison, Big E. Okay, cool. Who cares? I mean, that's better than no one, but like, you got Shawn Michaels in the building. Why wouldn't they be there for that? I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. Again, I'm not overly optimistic. For the company's sake, I really hope they can exceed my expectations, but I'm not getting my hopes up. And that does it, guys, for today's episode of #AskGSM for Wednesday, August 19th, 2020, episode 351 here today. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show. I know it was a shorter show than usual, and I'm actually kind of glad, though, because I do got to get going. I got a lot of stuff to catch up on before I take off tomorrow, that being Wednesday. If you want to send in a question to the show, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post that I usually put up on Tuesdays, if not on the wall itself. Last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Once again, guys, check out my exclusive interviews right now with Seth Rollins right here on the channel for Monday, and with Triple H coming this Friday right here to the channel. The audio of that interview, me chatting with the game, coming this Friday to YouTube. Have a great one, guys. Enjoy your Wednesday. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.